This is the Great Basin prescribed fire and weather briefing for Friday, October 10th. Just as a reminder, we normally issue these weather briefings with an emphasis on prescribed fire every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We will not have one this Monday due to the upcoming Columbus Day holiday, so the next one will be next Wednesday. Looking at fire activity, new fire starts in the red, and we had quite a few smaller fires. A lot of it due to the lightning that has occurred in the last 24 hours or so. It has been dry for about 7 to 10 days before that in some of these areas. Also, a small fire up here northwest of Reno. A bit of a concern in that area with strong downslope winds coming in off the Sierra. Got some major weather coming up for this weekend. We have a flood watch in effect for southern areas of Utah into parts of southeast Nevada and the Arizona Strip, and of course through much of Arizona. Subtropical moisture, partly the remnants of the monsoon, the other parts of a decaying tropical system being absorbed by a big low pressure area further north will provide the heavy rains down there. And it doesn't take a lot of rain to produce flooding, and especially flash flooding in a lot of these canyons in this region. Further up north, we have winter storm watches on the cold side of this storm across much of the panhandle of Idaho and up into western Montana. This is centered on the higher terrain above 55,000 feet. This will probably bleed over into parts of the Payette and the Salmon Chalice as we go into Sunday. Could be 3 to 6 inches of snow up there. Now, during the past 24 hours, we have seen the first shot of that heavy rain moving into our southern areas. The areas in the bright green are 1 to 2 inches of rain, widespread 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch in those various shades of blue. Notice that much of Nevada, northern and western Nevada, even central Nevada, has missed out on the precipitation. Quite a bit of lightning down there, part of that due to the fire starts. Not every area gets the heavy rain here, so there was some lightning on the outer periphery. Now, before that, over the past 7 days, we were quite dry, bone dry, I would say. We see these dark red areas in southern Nevada into parts of the Arizona Strip and southern Utah. So the initial lightning did cause some new fires, but that has since been followed up by widespread moisture and higher humidity. Otherwise, quite a bit of significant rains further north, and the areas in the dark green to yellow, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of rain, near record-setting rain in the Salt Lake City area of over 2.5 inches in a lot of areas through there. Now, fuel charts, we don't have the ERC point map for the off-season, but we do have the fuel charts. You can see down south, in southern Nevada mountains, the Spring Mountains. These are 100-hour fuels, so the lower they are, the more critical. They were very high about a week ago, and they had moisture, but because of the recent 7 days of dry weather, they have plummeted, still above normal, but sometimes it's that parabolic drop in the 100-hour fuels that shows the drying that might be occurring in some of the finer fuels, like the 10-hour fuels, 1-hour fuels. We see similar pattern for the Arizona Strip and southwest Utah. They were quite high, and this parabolic drop indicates how dry it's been and how maybe some of the finer fuels that respond quicker to that, let's say the 10-hour fuels, could be significantly lower, and that's why they had some of the fire starts through there. Satellite imagery, deep wintertime Pacific low pressure system pulling up tons of monsoonal and tropical moisture through Arizona into much of southern and eastern Utah. Drier air further westwards across Nevada, and this dry air on the southwest vector with strong winds producing downslope winds across much of the Sierra front today with drying humidity that'll have to be washed as long as those winds are blowing. But I should say fairly dry up north for now before the storm system finally hits parts of the northern Rockies later this weekend. So the upper level map for this afternoon, low pressure that's off the northern California coast pushes a little bit further northward. Off the Oregon coast, but that southerly flow pulling in tons of moisture. You see that moisture trailing all the way back down into deep into Mexico. So it's pulling up some of the leftover monsoon moisture, some of the tropical moisture from the recent decaying tropical storm, and squeezing it out into this low pressure area, combining it with the jet stream. Long story short, widespread rains, light to locally moderate, even pockets of heavy rain where you see the greens and darker greens, dry air mass where you see the tannish shades, along with some very strong upper level winds near the ridge tops in the Sierra. Winds could be 60, 65 knots or miles per hour. So that's pretty strong. Excellent overall dispersion areas in the white. So for any burning, it's good. But with the winds, you may have too much of a good thing, could kick you out of prescription. So even the sustained surface winds, not even including gusts, in these orange to purple areas could be anywhere from um, 25 to 35 miles an hour across much of Nevada. And you see the humidity 23% here in Reno, and this orange area suggests it could even be down into the low and mid teens, much higher humidities with the clouds and rain as you head further eastwards and northwards. Now you see the transport winds. These are analogous to peak gusts, and we see these purples and browns across much of western Nevada along the Sierra front. These are wind gusts somewhere between 45 and 55, even near 60 miles an hour, possibly, and 30 to 50-mile-an-hour winds extending much further eastwards through the rest of the state and also up into Idaho as well. So for burning, transport winds, it's good to have them there to move the smoke out of stagnation, but sometimes you get too much of a good thing. Now, for Saturday, this low pressure area kind of shifts to the north. There's another one off the map here, still pulling up that moisture, but the moisture is exiting eastern Utah by tomorrow afternoon. But another trough low pressure digging on down. Excellent overall dispersion. The stronger belt of sustained winds does shift further eastwards into eastern and central Utah. Humidity still fairly high in most areas. The strongest winds, the good news is the Sierra front Washoe Zephyr winds diminish. The winds do shift further eastward, so strong winds, even locally damaging winds here in the Spring Mountains, 50 to 60 plus miles an hour. Those are strong enough to damage power lines, something to keep in mind. And also these winds extend into parts of the Salt Lake area and into the northern Wasatch as well. Mixing heights overall, excellent, 3 to 5,000 feet, even some pockets of 7 and 8,000 feet in the red. And then on Sunday, we have this next low pressure area dropping out of the north, a wide area of moisture, much colder air here, snow levels around 5,500 feet. So a lot of the middle and higher elevations in Idaho will be getting some snow. Dry, breezy conditions further to the south. You can see the ventilation index, excellent to the north. It's a little bit of stagnation further south, but not too much. Humidity drying out across southern areas, especially Nevada, 9%, 17%, upper 20s to low 30s across much of southern and central Utah, 35 to 45% in Idaho. Then much higher as you head towards the Salmon River. Winds overall fairly light, but they're strong at the transport level, some of the highest terrain of the central Idaho mountains and into the portions of western Wyoming as well. Light winds further south. Big change in temperatures from today on the left to Sunday on the right. Pick your location. You'll probably see a 20 plus degree cool down in most areas as we go into the weekend. 3-day precipitation totals seen through here, quite heavy. Areas in the blue to purple, anywhere from 1 to 2 and even pockets of 3 inches of precipitation. So hence the flood warnings in southern areas where those kinds of rain amounts can cause havoc in a lot of the rocky canyons where drainage is poor. And some of that precipitation goes further northwards. And a lot of this in parts of Idaho and Wyoming. Could be in the form of snow. So I have to watch that for 6 inches or more of snow up there, especially on Sunday. Now on Monday, low pressure area deepens. This one's off the northern California coast. It kind of drops further south. This plume of moisture going up into parts of Nevada and Idaho will have light to locally moderate precipitation, but definitely lower snow levels, maybe 5,500 feet in Idaho, maybe 6,000 feet or 6,500 feet in Nevada. That's good to hit the mid and upper slopes with several inches of snow, excellent ventilation. And that low pressure system sticks around again on Tuesday. On Wednesday, still lingering. The areas in the green become a little bit more diffuse, so precipitation will be spottier and lighter, but still lingering on Thursday with clouds and cool conditions and unsettled, showery weather in parts of Nevada and the Sierra and into southern Idaho. On Thursday, dry, breezy conditions further east. So we're under the influence of low pressure for the next 7 days. That's been kind of the pattern over the last couple of weeks. So we have noticed an atmospheric shift in some things. We'll discuss that in a minute. Days 4 and 5 precipitation, again, fairly light through here, locally moderate in parts of Nevada, but heavy across the Sierra. And then day 6 and 7, some of that precipitation heads further eastwards. Again, light to locally moderate amounts, but it could come with several inches of snow in some of the higher terrain of Wyoming, northern Utah, Nevada, Idaho. When you add it all up, the next 7 days, it is going to be quite wet under a series of low pressure systems, nonstop, cooler, wetter weather, and some very wet conditions. And looking down in Arizona, some areas, it's kind of off the key here, but some areas could see 5, 6 inches of rain during that time period, getting up into the Mogollon Rim in southeast Arizona and parts of southern New Mexico. Sierra gets hit pretty hard. So I think the mountains of the Sierra, the Cascades, and some of the higher terrain of Idaho and Wyoming and even northern Utah will start getting a head start on their winter snowpack by the end of this 7 day period. And kind of unusual, we don't see this stuff developing early every year, but there has been a pattern developing. We'll talk about that in a second. 8 to 14 day, cooler than normal in a lot of areas, wetter than normal in all areas. And one thing we've noticed in the Pacific, in the northern Pacific, it's almost like the El Nino of the north. An unusually warm belt of sea surface temperatures has been forming all summer long into September, and very similar to the sea surface temperature that we had in September of 2022. You can see it highlighted here in the bottom. If you remember that year, we had a very wet period from October on through the following April, near record-setting snows across parts of Utah's mountains, above normal snowfall across the Sierra, drier than normal across some of the northern Rockies from the central Idaho mountains on northwards of the Cascades. So we'll see how that develops. Last time we had this pattern, our winter precip in 22 to 23, a couple of years ago, was quite heavy here in the southern half or southern two-thirds of the Great Basin into the Sierra, where we had 150 to 300% of our normal precipitation over a 5 or 6 month period. And the snowpack, the end of March, was near record levels, 150 to over 250% of normal. We see the dark blue and even some of these other blue shades here being maybe 20 to 40% above normal. It wasn't until you got into the far northern Rockies where things were either near normal or slightly below normal. But overall, a pretty wet, cold, stormy, snowy period in the winters when we have that sea surface temperature in the Pacific. Not a guarantee, but it's giving us some hints of what to expect over the next couple of months. And of course, that portends into what the upcoming fire season for 2026 could look like. So we'll get to that next time. This concludes our briefing. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Our next briefing coming up, not Monday because it's a holiday, but it'll be on Wednesday. Have a good one.